Welcome back to My Mythical Meta, your gaming podcast that's actually a friendship podcast. I want to start off by apologizing for the missing week. We did release a deck tech. That was some hidden footage that we found in the archives that was ready to go out. My home has been undergoing construction. People have been in and out and building, and the audio editing process has been just about impossible with all of that noise, but we have taken a quiet evening to record. My name is Travis, and I'm joined by the entire Mythical Meta crew. All of the Metapods are here and hardening. My brother Benjamin.
Hello.
Kwisatz Haderach Derek.
Yeah, it's me.
And my good friend, my travel partner. We're going to Japan this summer. Can't wait. Randy.
Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa. ¿Cómo estás?
You got to do that at least once.
What'd you say?
When you're in Japan, you got to do that at least once.
Say ¿Cómo estás to somebody?
Yes.
I am so pumped to be back and recording My Mythical Meta with you guys. How have your 2 weeks been?
I've been killing it lately.
Yeah?
Did my 5K officially.
Nice.
Derek, we're so proud of you, dude.
Yeah, that was
Thank
awesome.
you.
We saw that video. He sent it in our group chat, and Derek's over here on your left, passing people right at the finish line.
I had a little gas in the tank I needed to use before I ran out.
That was so awesome, dude. We are so proud of you.
Thank you.
Benjamin, how's your weight loss coming?
Great. I'm at the lowest point since I started.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Me too.
well, yeah, you just ran a 5K.
Yeah.
That's way better. Like last week was spring break, and my calorie intake and exercise and all that got way out of whack, and I was worried that I had fallen off the wagon. But no, it just took a couple of days to immediately lose it all. So it must have been some weird water weight or something. And last week we were in Austin took some kids to UIL State, and I got to relive the college glory days. Did okay. They went 2-2. Hey, at the top level, that's not bad. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, good for them.
Tell congratulations to your kids from us.
Thank you. And they're only juniors, so they got another year to take it down.
Improve.
That's right.
Cool. You mentioned it was nice reliving your college glory days at UT.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, and that's where I did this, that's where I did that. Here's the great date spot, all that stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was fun.
Randy, how about you?
No real progress on the weight loss. I think I'm pretty much just now starting that goal. I have gotten up to gold in my rankings for Apex, so
nice.
Just kind of working through that. Other than that, it's been a pretty chill, relaxing couple weeks, so nothing too crazy.
You said you and Nikki were considering getting a cat last weekend?
Yeah, we were looking, but we didn't pull the trigger yet, so... But I mean, they have adoptions there every Saturday, so we'll probably go back again this Saturday. Or maybe not, because we'll be with y'all.
Yeah, we're doing an escape room this weekend.
Yeah, maybe afterwards, or maybe before we go, we'll go look at the cats.
Cool.
Cool.
Derek, you've got to tell our fervent listeners about your new family edition.
Yeah, so after watching Dune 2, I decided to buy the book collection, and it should be here soon. I'm very excited.
Oh, you did go ahead and buy...
I don't think that's what he meant.
Oh, that's not family member he's talking about?
No. But you did finally buy your own book. You didn't want to wait for one of us to give you our copy?
So they were having a sale because of the movie.
Okay.
It was all 6 books in the saga, I guess, for like $30 or $60, something like that. So it was like on a huge sale. So I thought, might as well do it while I can.
I've only read the one main one.
I'm excited, but they're not supposed to be here until like April something. I guess because they're on back order or something. But what Travis is actually talking about is that we were supposed to go do an escape room last Saturday, but Travis's Kristen was sick, so Kristen and I kind of improvised, and we went to a pet adoption drive, I don't know what you would call that, and adopted a new puppy named Bandit.
Yay!
Nice.
New puppy! Bandit!
I don't know what breed he is. They say he's a collie mix, but I'm not sure. I don't super see it myself, but he's red.
Oh,
Cute. I love it. He's adorable. Can't wait to see him this weekend.
I'm telling you, that dog probably has 1% Burmese mountain dog, and it's going to grow up to be 200 pounds.
Oh my god.
Tibetan Mastiff.
Yeah, something like that.
It's going to be a horse.
Like, you're going to be able to ride it into battle,
Well,
get some armor for it.
Wouldn't be mad at that.
You know, whenever the apocalypse or civil war or whatever breaks out.
Yeah.
Did y'all see that there's like a network show called Civil War that's coming out?
No.
Yeah, it's a movie, right?
Oh, that's right.
Oh, is it a movie?
I think so. By A24?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Nick Offerman plays the president of the United States.
Yeah, I think Texas and California join forces.
I think it's Texas, California, and Florida secede.
Yeah, it's an
Something
interesting
like that.
combination.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they would
it's
all
freaky.
succeed for different reasons.
Yeah.
Hey, Benjamin, Eldorado Gaming just got a sale online.
Really? All right. I hadn't seen that. All right.
Thank you, buyer.
What did they buy?
I didn't check. Hold on. Oh, I'm happy to check. I'll call him out on the show right now.
I'm checking.
All right, Steven. Welcome to the show.
Giving out full names, huh?
Oh, I shouldn't do that. I'll edit out his last name. We hope you enjoy your Captain's Cash dice box.
Yeah.
We got a listener to the show, man. He's saying, man, my players are all they're all fudging their dice rolls.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I need a dice tower for them. Dude, you're gonna love it, Steven. We're glad you found us. We hope you listen to the pod. All right, we have got a shout out today. We're gonna shout out one of our patrons. Guys, a new patron,
No.
Becky.
Oh my god, Becky.
You're gonna give out last
That's
names
right.
again?
Dang it, sorry. Our new
She's Becky with the
patron,
good hair.
Becky.
Woo! Becky!
Thank you, Becky.
We have got a new patron to our Patreon. Becky, thank you so much. Guys, we're at 2.
All right.
It's
That's where
happening.
it starts.
It's happening. We're growing. Yes. If you too want to become a patron and be a part of our grassroots foundation, find us at patreon.com/mymythicalmeta. There are great perks waiting for you. First, a 20% off code for eldoradogaming.com. You get early and ad-free content. That includes last week, whenever we were out for a couple of days, our patrons got that deck tech early before it was released to the public.
Lucky.
Yeah, early and ad-free content. And lastly, access to the My Mythical Meta Discord server, where we chat and where we play games together online. Derek, what's this week's surprise Patreon perk?
I'm glad you asked, because for one lucky patron, I'm going to let you come over in the middle of the night for the puppy shift. I'm tired of waking up at night, and I would like someone to take over, and he's a very cute dog. He's mostly well-behaved.
Guys, he's so cute. It is an absolute privilege, and one lucky patron who joins this week is going to get the opportunity to stay at Derek's house from midnight to 4 a.m.
The 3 o'clock shift, that's where it picks up.
We're just
Lots of poop at 3.
waiting for the dog to whine at about 3 a.m. What a gift.
I mean,
what a treasure, honestly.
Hey, that's not bad for a night. You might pay $80 or $90, $4 a month.
A night under the stars, you can stay in my backyard.
Bring your own cotton sleeping bag.
Yeah. No tent. I don't want little stakes in my yard.
No tent. Your grass is too precious.
Yeah. My crabgrass.
All right. Welcome back to another exciting week. I think we have a fun episode in store. We are calling this episode The War Report, where each member of the meta has come to this episode with news from the warfront. Some are older posts that we have wanted to address for the past couple of weeks but haven't had an opportunity to, and some are brand new, literally from today. And I'm excited to hear what you guys brought and what you guys wanted to talk about today. Our first post was brought to us from Randy.
All right, so this first post was from our D&D. He says, as a player, what excites you the most about a homebrew world? And in the post he says, I'm working on a world for a homebrew campaign. I don't have players lined up yet, or else I would ask them. I enjoy the act of world building, but this is my first time for D&D. So I'm curious what kind of things I should focus on and what players generally are interested in. Pantheon, history, detailed workings of politics, nightmare-fueled monstrosities, new magic system and items. the list is pretty much endless. So it is very particular to your D&D group, though. So it's kind of hard to say, in my opinion, without having any idea of who you're playing with first.
Right.
But if you're trying to do, like, if I was him and I was trying to start the homebrew campaign before I had players, definitely I would say get, like, I guess, like, the world itself built, but don't go so in depth where you're writing a novel. I feel like we've talked about it in the past where someone was complaining about they weren't interested in like, the homebrew world, and he had all this stuff built out, and I think you sound like you want to write a novel. Don't do that.
Yeah.
I think if you want to make up a pantheon, cool, but don't make it super duper complex right now. I think get a lot of skeleton kind of like systems set up of like, here's the world, here's like a brief big moments in that world's history, or even just like that region's history, and then if the pantheon is important to the story you want to tell, then maybe flesh it out a little bit.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, if your god or gods don't really impact
the adventure itself for the players, then I wouldn't put a lot of energy into it. But if you want your gods to have a heavy presence, then it's worthwhile creating those in-depth histories or talking about your god's powers or whatever.
Yeah, and I would say that, like, if when you do get a character, let's say one of them is a paladin or a cleric or any kind of person that does worship a god or a demon, whatever, if it's a warlock or whatever, then maybe flesh that out a bit more with them. Like, you can kind of tell them, this is the god of war, and this is who that paladin is worshiping, is like this war god or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Then work with him on fleshing it out more. But yeah, I do this sometimes where it's a little bit of that like ADHD. You dive really deep into something, and then it's like, I did a lot of time into this, and it may not bear fruit.
Yeah. And it may not matter because none of the players even ask about it.
Yeah.
Or
so, like I said, do like skeletal systems for history,
I think using, like, if you're just trying to save time, it's not sure if it's something that's going to be relevant, base it on some kind of pop culture type thing, like the Pantheon, maybe the Greek gods, or some other kind of, I can't think of another thing with gods in it, but yeah.
My first one, I stole all the Theros gods from Magic. Mogus and a bunch of them. That was my kind of general theme for the gods, because they already kind of had a
lore built into them.
Yeah, a mythos that I could, like, that I was familiar with, and so I wasn't having to flesh it all out myself. It was there, but it was still fantasy and new to my, to the players for the most part. And I think for me, what excites me with homebrew is kind of learning about what all there is to do in the world. Like what's going on. I feel like I haven't had a chance to play a player in a little bit, so I'm thinking more from the DM side. So I like to make maps. That's what I'm working on right now, is making maps for y'all and things to, like, bring physical things to show y'all. That's what I really enjoy.
As a player, for me, just like when I'm playing a video game, when I go into a homebrew world, I want to know what major factions are at play.
Yeah.
Like, in Cyberpunk, I need to learn about the major corporations that are really the movers and shakers of Night City or of the country or of the world. I need to know what Arasaka's beef is with Militech. Like, that's what I need to know. And when I get into Dragon Age, I need to know about the mages and the Templars, and I need to know kind of about the Fereldans, the Free Marches, demons, dwarves, elves. Like, I need to know what each major faction is of the world, especially in Dragon Age Origins, where your goal is to gather an army from each faction. And then you have to make choices throughout the game throughout Dragon Age Origins, there are all of these small faction battles. And in each one, you have to choose a side. And then that side is going to help you in the bigger war at the end of the game. So that's a great way of introducing a player for the first time what all is going on in the world. I know that the Mages and Templars are two major factions. I know that in the Dwarven Kingdom of Orzammar that there's two political camps, elves versus werewolves, and then in Denerim it was pretty much humans versus elves. So, like, the major movers and shakers, if there are things like thieves guilds or major cities or trade guilds or anything like that is kind of pushing where the general population's ideas are going to flow. Those are the things that interest me in a homebrew world, is what factions you have going on and how they're at conflict with each other. Yeah. Because that means as a player, I can start picking sides and getting involved in those factions. I can start becoming a member of the world that already exists.
Yeah. What's interesting to me is that both y'all really focused on major world building and stuff, but to me, one of the nice things about playing a homebrew is that it's a big part of, the DM or game mechanic, game master, whatever, has created something, and I'm looking for Easter eggs. I want to see, like, what clever NPC names did they come up with? What inside jokes did they fill in here? What aspects of their character, personality, or whatever? And so I'm just looking for little puns all around the world, and
that's cute.
Yeah. So, I don't care so much about if it's important for the story, I'll figure it out, but I figure that's basically the same homebrew or not. I got to go figure out, which part of the D&D lore is being used in this campaign, which part of the mage factions, like that's true for any world, whether it's a homebrew or not. But what's different about this is that the DM has some personal investment in this, and I'm trying to figure out where their personality is coming out. And I always, clever, you got it, you got me, those sorts of things.
That is something interesting about modern day D&D, is there are so many modules, and obviously Baldur's Gate 3 is a part of that too, where Dungeons & Dragons as its own IP has a very structured lore now, but in my experience playing Dungeons & Dragons, starting when I was in the 6th grade, like, we never ever played in Greyhawk or the Forgotten Realms or
Faerun.
The Sword Coast, Faerun. Is Faerun like the name of the plane, of the planet?
Oh, I don't know.
Or is it just a country? Like Eberron, like all of those D&D IPs we never used. Like, I've only ever played in homebrew games. And so I always feel like a newcomer to every world I start in.
Also, don't be afraid to take factions from already established, books. Like you were saying, Eberron, there's a whole bunch of factions in there, and there's nothing wrong with, like, I like that idea. I'm going to just copy and paste it into my homebrew, because guess what? Now it's all fleshed out. All the leaders are there, or whatever the book has. But it's like, hey, it tells me what their governmental structure is. It tells me who key players in this system are, and what technology level they're at. That gives you a ton of stuff just by taking from that.
Yeah.
For me, I agree with Travis. I like to know who the big major factions and players are, but more than that, I like to, because I those are the things, like, I can influence and change in this game. Like, those are the tools I can use to do that.
Yeah.
But I also like taking that way down to, like, the street level, where it's, that's where I can have an immediate influence on the whole world. At least as a player, it's like, oh, I can, walk out of my fantasy house right now and stab somebody, and that be like a whole storyline or whatever. Like, that feels very livable. I guess I want to get kind of lost in the immersion of, like, hey, I know it's fantasy of mine, but it's like, hey, there's a bakery down the road. My character's wanted. He's hiding. He's always kind of got one eye over his shoulder, looking back behind him. That kind of stuff that I really like makes the world feel lived in.
Derek just wants to own a bar, run a business, run his.
I just want to be a successful business owner.
Yeah, things we can't be in real life. Successful business owners and homeowners. Well, so some of y'all are those. Yeah.
Homeowner? Maybe in another 29 years.
Yeah, right?
I kind of wanted to ask, we are in a game together. We are playing Mage the Ascension, and I made the choice to set our game in modern day Houston, Texas. Obviously, it's a magical version of modern day Houston, Texas, but I wanted to ask you guys, what did you like or dislike about that choice as a setting for your game? Would you have preferred, like, a Matrix-style nameless metropolis? Or are you glad that it's a place that we're familiar with?
I like that it's a place we're familiar with, because it kind of, I guess it kind of, like, gives it some roots, like, gives me some bearing of, like, where am I? I get the, by it being modern day, it's like, okay, I don't have to wonder what technological advances do we have access to or not. It's like, it's modern day, I know everything that's modern day, and then we can add a little sci-fi to it. And then with it being, where we live, it's like I said, it kind of grounds it in, I guess, like, knowing, oh, well, that's this part of town, and, not having to ask, well, how long would it take us to get to this part of, across town in this fictional world? No, we know it's going to be 45 minutes no matter where we're going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly love it. I'm a weirdo with maps. You guys know that. I like to follow along with what we're doing. I'm on Google Maps, like, oh, we're at the San Jacinto Monument. Okay, we must be here. I'm
Oh
looking
my
at Street View, stuff like
Google
that.
Earth. Zoom in.
I love it. It just kind of it brings that, like you said, like the immersion for me. I was like, I've been to this place. I know this place like the back of my hand.
Yeah, you don't need a
That's
battle
cool
map
because
if you
for
have
that
Google
adventure
Earth.
in particular, I had never been there.
Yeah.
I had never been to the San Jacinto Monument, so there were times when you were like, "No, Travis, it's not like that."
You've never been
Maybe I had been there.
You've never been to the San Jacinto Monument?
I've never
think
been there
so.
either.
Okay,
Really?
it's time for us to...
I've been to the Stephen F. Austin statue.
Well, yeah, but... All right, we need to take a field trip. It's good. It's important.
Is it a My Mythical Meta field trip?
Yes, company...
Oh, it's 45 minutes away.
So
Yeah, exactly what I
Yeah.
said. It's Houston. Everything's 45 minutes.
every time I come play with y'all, it's 45 minutes away.
That's fair.
But anyways,
Benjamin, what about
Yeah,
you? Do you like that it's...
I like that we didn't have to spend so much time like asking those questions. It really helps each game move. We get a lot in. It really helps the theater of the mind aspect where, you know,
Yeah.
when you were saying, hey, we're doing everything at this IKEA, I knew what was happening in the loading docks because I could picture the loading docks. I've been there many, many times, you know.
Yeah.
When Derek's character was loading up stuff into a car, I was like, I can see him doing that, you know.
Yeah.
And our last adventure at the GRB.
Right, exactly.
At
Yeah.
the George R. Brown Convention Center.
Yep. I was picturing, okay, I know which room we're in. I know, you know, we had to go up to the floor and watch that demonstration. And it's like, hey, I've done that multiple times.
Yeah.
I do like that you don't have to establish paths. You don't have to, you know, like Derek said with maps. I remember when we were getting ready to play this campaign, I watched a couple of actual plays online of a lot of different systems, including some done by some really good DMs like Brennan Lee Mulligan. I noticed that as they were explaining stuff to their characters, oftentimes explaining geography, it really slowed down a lot of the storytelling. It's like, well, you're here and you're here, how are y'all going to get there, etc. And one of the actual plays I really loved was a version of Mage where they did it in Los Angeles.
Oh, that's cool.
And they were, I think it was Los Angeles. It might have been it was some California city. But they were talking about real places. They went to eat at real restaurants. And on the screen, they would show a map of where they were going. And the characters were
That's
all
pretty
kind of
neat.
familiar with the area. And so they just said, well, let's just go here. It'll take us about 2 hours. Do we have enough time? You know, and the characters, the role playing is more genuine when, you know, you don't have to say, well, do I need to fast travel or whatever? You know exactly. It saves a bunch of memory
Yeah.
space. So I thought it was cool doing it in Houston.
Well, good. I'm glad that you guys like that. I want to use this as one more opportunity to plug Dawn of Worlds.
Yes.
If your homebrew world, if your players know all about it, that makes your actual game run so much smoother. Rather than you trying to front load a bunch of your own homebrewed stuff onto them. They're either only going to read what matters to them, worst case scenario, they won't read or pay attention at all, and they'll be asking questions as you go about your world. But the best games I've played in are games that take place in real locations, which obviously requires a modern day scenario. Or Derek, do you remember when we were both at BTSR and we had that weekend where we were all flooded in?
Yes.
And so everybody started kind of role playing or pretending what camp would be like if it were the post-apocalypse. And
Yeah, the apocalypse happened and we were shielded in this canyon.
yeah, the apocalypse happens, the rapture happens, and it's only us left in the grounds of camp. And you're limited to the boundaries of camp. And that was a really fun weekend, a fun kind of thought experiment, because we all knew what we were working with. We were all really familiar with the layout. All right, great war report, Randy. Very good. The next one is mine. I found a post that is all too real, something we have all experienced. This is on our Dungeons & Dragons, and the post says, "You don't cancel D&D for other plans. You say no to other plans because you'll be at D&D." I mean, this was obviously a very popular post because it's a common experience. The game wants to happen weekly, and almost every single week, somebody says no, that they're not going to be there because something in life has come up. This person has added that phrase to their expectations when recruiting players. It sounds like this person plays online, and so they're recruiting I mean, again, part of our podcast is that you should be trying to play with friends first. But as they're trying to recruit players, they're setting this expectation that Dungeons and Dragons is a commitment. It's not your last resort as something that you should only do if nothing better comes up. They want people to commit to the game. And obviously, that is something that we have gone through. We are just the four of us. We already meet weekly for a podcast. And so trying to find a second time to play is often a month or 2 months, time between our game sessions. And the same is true for our other game with me, Derek, Randy, the Kristens, and Nikki. That game takes sometimes like a month or two between sessions because Kristen and I are the first ones in our group to have our own child, but Derek and Randy often have other family commitments. I'm sure Nikki and Randy, you guys have family commitments that come up too.
I'll cancel.
Randy's happy to cancel in order to play D&D. But this is certainly a conversation where it's hard to promise that the first Sunday of every month we'd be able to play. It's just really hard to promise that. I wanted to bring this to the meta and see if there are possible solutions. Is this a reasonable expectation that you tell somebody that if somebody says they're going to be in their game that that's the commitment? Or do surprise family things that come up, is there a place for that? I wanted to open that up to you guys.
I think that it's really common in our society to say I have a standing commitment with friends. Now, I think that it's different if it's strangers versus friends. So if you have an online group that you met solely for the purpose of playing, and you don't have a standing relationship with them, I think it could go both ways. You could say, well, because they're strangers, this is the only way they'll be able to play is if we all commit, and therefore, it's a commitment that I have. I think that's fine. But for me, I think no one would bat an eye if you said, hey, I've got men's group every week. I've got a
Bible study.
I've got friends that I have dinner with every Thursday. Or
axe throwing.
I mean, there are people who do that.
Pickleball,
definitely.
Pickleball.
Hey, I play, it's kind of the same thing with our podcasting every week. It's been hard for us to schedule, but we make that work because it's a chance for us to connect. We talk before and afterwards. We catch up live on the air, and it's a lot easier to do that than it is in person all over the city. And I don't think that it should be that strange to say, hey, that's the night I have something planned. I can't do something else. Now, we are not holding each other hostage. Obviously, there are exigent circumstances where somebody's got to skip a week, and that's fine. I think that's to be expected, and that's true of everything. Sometimes you skip other commitments for emergencies too. But when your friends are saying, I want to get together with you on a regular basis, every other week or whatever, for our group to get together and hang out, I think that should be expected of you and acceptable by the people you hang out with, that, hey, I have a core group of friends that I hang out with every week, and you need to be okay with that. We're going to plan around that. Yeah, I think that's a reasonable expectation.
Cool.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like if you want it and you want to make it happen, you'll make it happen somehow. You'll put the time away and you'll shape your life around that. But for people like us and me in particular, where we have family obligations, we have game obligations, the problem is, we only have Saturday and Sunday, and those days are so precious. Everyone wants a piece of that time. I mean, that's why I would never sign up for, just be honest with yourself. It's like, can I make this commitment or not?
Yeah. I totally agree with that you need to look inward and be like, am I going to commit to playing or commit to whatever? Is this game or is this meeting a high enough priority to set aside all other possible events? And I think that comes into question if it's just strangers online.
Right.
And it's so important because I'll just say, I don't think I could make a non-negotiable commitment to strangers online.
I could.
If our only goal is to play this pretend game where we are role-playing different characters, and that's the core purpose of getting together, am I even getting to know them when we're playing?
No, probably not.
That's what I'm saying. So these are strangers that are signing up to play a game of pretend with one another, and I'm not even getting the opportunity really to get to know them. Now, obviously there's the opportunity before and after and during the game to be like, hey, what do you guys do in real life? Or what's your job? Or what's your family's like? But then again, it's strangers online. I don't know how much information I want to give about myself to a stranger online. So like there's this cognitive dissonance that says I want to commit to these strangers, but I don't want to overcommit to these strangers.
No,
That I think is an odd expectation.
Right. Well, I think that online, I would never commit to a regular online game with strangers unless I found myself with a bunch of free time. You know, maybe when my kids are out of the house or something like that. I would never do that now. I'm only thinking of the commitment in terms of when it's friends. Because you need to make time for friends. It's an important part of the world we live in. It's important for our relationship building. And when we get together to play, it isn't just, hey, I'm learning about your character. I am interacting with you, and it is it's one of the few ways I get to see my brother.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where I think that should be acceptable for people to say, these are the friends that I've chosen to have regular hangouts with, and I'm going to do that and commit to it, and you don't get to just come along and usurp my friend time.
Yeah.
This post reads to me as like a very 20s mindset.
Yeah.
Like when I had nothing but time, no job, all that stuff, when I could play every single day if you wanted to. And now in my 30s, I'm like, I'm begging for one afternoon to myself.
Yeah, I definitely see that. In this post, they ask, does anyone else emphasize this during recruitment? And that kind of question just makes it seem like they're looking for employees.
Well, I think you do recruit strangers for a game, but that does indicate that it's for strangers, right? You're not recruiting your friends for a game. If your friends,
right.
if you have a gaming group of friends, you don't recruit them. That's who you're going to play your next game with. So
right.
yeah, I think that you're right. That sounds like they're looking for, and they might be. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of these people are professional DMs or people who, they're getting paid to do this, and it affects their livelihood if people don't show up. So that could be.
Randy, I did want you to bring up the solution that you've kind of started with our group. The calendar.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about it. I think I saw it on another Reddit post maybe at some point. I don't remember. But I got the idea of just starting up like a Google Calendar or, whatever kind of calendar and just sharing it with the people in the group and being like, hey, like, let's mark down what weekends we're free and able to play. And then when we have like the most overlapping things, let's try to make those days work. We haven't really done it yet, but I would like to kind of work on it because it has been a minute since we played our D&D session, and I really would like to have like at least once a month a session, and I know that's like tough sometimes, but it's like could we schedule like the second Saturday or something like that, and I mean we'll talk about that off air, but I would like to try to schedule something as like a standing. It doesn't have to go forever, but man, if we could get 6 months straight, 6 sessions in a half year, that'd be a ton of progress. That'd be the most we played and the most progress we made in a campaign like ever.
Yeah, that's true.
Since high school.
Since high school and early college when we were meeting all the time.
That's true
every
too.
single week.
Friday 6 p.m. to Saturday 6 a.m.
12
hour sessions,
I miss those days.
They were fun.
Me too.
In the man cave, the old storage shed that we renovated.
Yeah.
Behind your mom's
And then there was a
house.
time when we would play at Derek's attic above his garage.
Yeah.
And we did that a couple times at your house, Randy.
Yeah, a few times.
I remember bringing over the Funyuns and Mountain Dew.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But I do like your calendar idea and just saying like, all right, guys, it's January. I want you to go through your calendars and put all your commitments up. All your birthdays, all your... all the weddings you've been invited to.
Well, yeah, but birthdays and weddings are probably, like, I guess, the biggest ones that you can plot out. And I guess if anyone has any, like, religious celebrations, but I don't think anyone here really... There's no hardcore practitioners in here. I
am culturally Catholic.
Fair weather Catholic.
Which just means I really love statues and incense and stained glass windows.
I don't know what you mean by hardcore practitioner, but I'm fairly religious.
Well, I mean, in the D&D group of me, Derek, Travis, Chris, and Kristen, and Nikki.
Sure.
Like, none of us are going
That's
to
true.
church every Sunday. None of us, or I don't think church ever. But
Randy, my mother listens to this podcast.
I mean, sorry, Travis does. I forgot. God, every Sunday you're busy.
I'm wearing my St. Benedict cross right now.
Yeah, but
The only church I go to is the Church of the Almighty Dollar. Can I get an amen, brother?
Hail
my God,
capitalism.
Derek.
I'm kidding.
Oh my God. So I think that
Holy Jesus.
this is obviously a tough conversation to have with anybody.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think if it's a dedicated friend group, which I think we have, we meet every Thursday to do this podcast together. And aside from that, we try to plan, our mage games. And then we try to plan Magic games in addition to our weekly online meetup. But all of our significant others know that it's podcast night, and that's something important that we're committed to. So it is reasonable to do that with an established friend group. Again, I don't know that I would make that jump with strangers.
I don't love D&D enough to do it.
I think it
That's
went,
fair.
like Derek said earlier.
That's a very fair point, yeah.
Like Derek said earlier, like when you're younger and you have a lot more time off, I feel like I could, like if I found a group that had like a good DM and they did want to meet weekly, I definitely see it. If you had the time and it's that interesting to you, and if it means that much to you, that I don't see any problem with making that time every week for it. I don't have that time anymore, but there's some people that some people don't have friends, and this is how they meet friends.
That's true. What I was saying earlier about I don't know how well I would get to know a stranger playing D&D, but absolutely that is a way to make friends. I didn't want to completely discount that. So, good topic. All right, Benjamin, what news from the war report do you have?
Okay, I have an interesting one from Reddit from RD&D that talks about playing optimized characters, or actually suboptimal characters. They said it's fairly common for people to play OP characters, optimized characters, min-maxed characters, stuff like that. And it says, have you ever gimped yourself? If yes, in what way? And how did it affect your experience or campaign? It says they're playing an I can't even say that word. Can y'all say that?
An Aarakocra?
An Aarakocra archer that has a fear of heights due to war PTSD. And they get a disadvantage for being above 20 feet on their skill checks and such. And if they're there for any period of time, they start to panic and plummet. And they said it hasn't become an issue yet, but they think that it may in the future. And there's some really interesting comments on this one. People talking about maybe being a chaos mage where they can't control themselves and stuff like that. But I thought that this was I think that playing suboptimal characters is sometimes really fun. Now, I will say that the most of the time when I play quote-unquote a suboptimal character, it's because I'm min-maxing, right? So I optimize my character to do a thing, but then, right, obviously the story is not always centered around that thing, and so it's suboptimal in every situation except for what it's been powered up for. And I do that all the time. And I actually have a lot of fun role-playing those weaknesses. I like all the role-playing systems that have merits and flaw systems, because I always go and find the craziest flaws that I can use those points somewhere else and then try to buff them up, or try to role-play through those flaws. I remember in a campaign of Martian Colony that you ran, I made my character mute and so trying to figure out, how am I going to communicate with the rest of the table? How am I going to communicate with NPCs? All of that was, actually interesting for me, trying to figure out, how much can I interact with the world when I can't talk? And my character was really strong, had really good reflexes, was great in battle, but out of battle, he was kind of a liability. There was, in our mage campaign, right, it's kind of the opposite. My character is really, really good at social interactions and actually not that great in battle. Kind of sits right on the sideline while Derek and Randy does the thing. But it's fun to me to roleplay those things, and it's one of the reasons why Land of Og is so fun to me. Land of Og is a role-playing game where your characters can only say 1d6 plus 2 words.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out how to, and you have to say what your vocabulary is at the start of the game. That's part of character creation. And so, if you put a word in your vocabulary but someone else doesn't, then y'all just can't talk to each other about that thing. But it's so much fun to role play through those things. So role playing, okay, my character has a limp. My character has a tick. My character has an addiction. My character is short. That's always really fun. Or trying to play an exceptionally tall rogue. Like, well, how am I supposed to hide when those sorts of things. I think is all
That's funny.
really, really fun. And kind of, I think really, sometimes your character will have a big time to shine, and sometimes your DM gets to use that to, put your group in a pickle. And I really like that. There's also, I think, the opportunity for low-powered campaigns if everyone plays kind of a well-rounded character on purpose, and there's no one who's always going to succeed at something. It becomes a lot more random. Am I going to convince that person to give me the key? Maybe. Let's find out. I'm a normal, everyday person who sometimes convinces people and sometimes I don't. I think that can make for some interesting drama. Of course, the DM has to be very careful that they're not putting you in a lot of TPK situations, because obviously no one is the best there is at combat. But I think those can be really good reasons to not run OP characters that are highly tuned and optimized.
I can't remember the last time I played something that I could consider an OP or optimized build. My swashbuckler right now uses a whip, and whips suck.
Definitely not optimal choices.
They deal a D4 damage. And I could easily be using a rapier and be dealing double or 3 times as much damage and just be killing people in my way.
But that's generic.
But yeah, that's really common, and a pacifist pirate is very, very interesting to me. Someone who is doing his best to threaten his way into riches and power, but killing as few people as possible. So a very kind of Dread Pirate Roberts feel is what I'm going for. Somebody who has a terrifying reputation, but who doesn't actually want to kill anyone. That to me is very fun and interesting. I remember for Derek's last game, I made a Warforged Barbarian. So he's a robot, and I just made it so that whenever he intuits any kind of threat, no matter what level that threat is, he will use his rage. So if he has a certain limit to the number of rages per day, well, somebody wanted to arm wrestle the robot at the inn, and so I expended a rage for it in order to get that boost. And I kind of flavored it like, threat detected, his eyes turn red, and his jaw opens up with spikes, and then that's it. He just turns it on and then turns it off. And that to me is also, funny and interesting.
I was going to throw in my current mage character. Mage has a great set of flaws you can take, and so I thought it would be a fun flavor thing to make him young. So I think we said he's 15, 16, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I think we said it was 16.
Yeah, he's 16, so, in the world of darkness, you're probably not going to get taken as serious because you're a kid.
Yeah.
And even just in the real world.
It's going to be tough getting into nightclubs.
Or just anywhere where it's well, you obviously don't work here. You're a child. You're not going to have a security job
right.
Or anything that you're going to need any kind of, access to. You're going to be denied because you're a kid. And I also give him things like addiction, soda, or real life addiction, that I battle. He's a kid and a nerd, so he's shy towards women, and then he also has nightmares and a compulsion. I don't remember what the compulsion is right now.
Narcolepsy or something, or no, deep sleeper.
Deep sleeper, that's what it was.
Deep sleeper, nightmares and deep sleeper.
Yeah, so it's rough. A lot of potential for roleplay there of being oh man, there was a fight in the next room and you just slept through it. It's yeah, man, I'm a real deep sleeper. Sorry, I missed out. But I think making flawed characters just gives so much room for fun roleplay instead of just being I'm great at everything. That's fun your first time playing a roleplay game.
Yeah.
And then once you realize that it's not as fun being a Mary Sue and, being broken is funny.
I want to say one time I was in high school, I did a halfling barbarian just because that's funny to me.
Just a little Napoleon, little guy with rage issues.
Yeah, just somebody with rage issues who's
short man syndrome.
Small, and that's funny to me.
Yeah.
And to me, it makes for an interesting character. Why is this little person so angry?
I'm on the other side of the fence as you guys. I'm here for the power fantasy. I'm not trying to make necessarily an OP character. I want to be good at the thing I want to be good at, and everything else is, for instance, I have my orc barbarian that is an unarmed brawler type of dude. I want to take people to Suplex City, so I'm going to make the most optimized build to take someone to Suplex City that I can, and that's fun for me. I just want to beat people up. up.
I think even then, though, if you're playing an orc barbarian, I think the optimal thing typically is, big axe. So I think you're kind of handicapping yourself by doing fist in a way. I mean, it still works well for you, and that's good because it's what you want your character to do flavor-wise.
I also think specifically it works better in Pathfinder than it would in D&D.
Sure, very true.
Because in Pathfinder, there are barbarian options that allow you to, what is it, Derek? Like channel an animal into your fists or something?
Yeah, it's like
you pick an animal path and it affects your damage?
Yeah, which is why I never made this character in D&D, because it was no good, and I would not have fun. Because I would be handicapped, and I don't want to be handicapped. I want to be good at fighting, so I want to have the best build I can have. I've got the I think the ape totem.
It was ape or elk.
Yeah, something like that. It might be elk because that one gives me, I think, like a 10-foot reach or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Which is me just doing optimized for damage and for fighting. But yeah, I'm here for the power fantasy. I can make my fun through roleplay, through non-mechanical
means.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't need the die roll or some kind of handicap to roleplay a fun character for myself.
Does your mage character have any flaws?
I took flaws so that way I could get points to buy merits.
Well, yeah, I mean that's yeah. I mean that's always a bonus to it.
The one I think that I guess is worth mentioning is I took it was the Marty McFly where if someone calls me a chicken I have to fight type of situation, and I picked that one as kind of like a cheat code type of thing where if I wanted to not fight, if like the group were like, okay, we're not going to fight or whatever, Travis as the DM could say, no, I wanted you guys to fight.
Yeah.
By doing that. So it's kind of like it's kind of like a tool for Travis to say.
A tool for the DM to use, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, hey, you guys are going off the path that I wanted you to go on, so I'm going to flip this switch to get you back on the track.
Derek, that just reminded me. In college, I was the type of person who, whenever I made a character, they were always an orphan. Like, I've got no living parents, I've got no living relatives, you cannot manipulate me through family.
Yeah.
And one time, another one of our group came with a wife and kids. And so our DM, this one session was like, whenever you get home that evening, you realize that your wife is missing. And there's a note of some kind of thing. And he was like so heartbroken and like so upset that he had been manipulated this way. And I was like, yeah, dude, you opened yourself up to that by giving the DM those tools. But whenever I played Gerard Traft with Randy, I was like, yep, I've got a wife, I've got kids, I've got all these ties to the city. Manipulate me however you want. I don't know if that counts as a GIMP, but it's part of my background that the DM can use to get me to do stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it that you had such a deep ties to the setting. I mean, we made your father-in-law the big bad.
Yeah.
That
was such a good character.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That was a good campaign. I liked that one.
Yeah, so I feel like now you've had several characters. I feel like that are rooted. They're not orphans anymore.
Yeah.
Even the one after that, Sobek, was hunting for a way to bring back his dead wife, and carried around a desiccated her desiccated
mummified hand. So that one's fun. So listener, we love playing flawed characters. We love bringing in.
I don't.
Except
don't
for Derek.
Don't put me in that category.
We think it's a ton of fun to purposefully give yourself an obstacle. That way it feels like we accomplish something whenever we overcome that obstacle. We build up walls so that we can overcome them. All right, we've got one post left. Derek, what did you bring for us today?
All right, this one is a tweet. With inflation on the rise, how do you guys feel about tipping culture? Are you tipping and how much these days?
Derek,
I think that's a very interesting thing. I'm getting very penny pinching with my tipping.
I'm on a budget too, guys.
I feel like I'm being milked dry. Like I'm subsidizing these wages.
Exactly. Tipping
so that way the CEOs can keep the money. And I'll be damned.
Derek, where's this tweet?
Oh, I made it up.
I know you did.
The real tweet says, played in a pod tonight where my opponent was swinging lethal commander damage in the air. They said they would choose at random and roll a dice to decide who to attack. I guess I should say this is at Mana Curves. I don't know if they're still called tweets or. They rolled and it didn't land on me.
Mana Curves is a pretty well-known influencer in the Magic community. They do the editing for the EDH Retcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they said they would attack at random, roll dice to attack. They rolled it and did land on me. My opponent then said, I don't like that outcome. I'm going to re-roll. And then re-roll landed on me. They swung and killed me. If you wanted to swing at me, just swing at me.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that seems super dumb.
I am so glad that we weeded out dice rolling for randomness. I'm glad we weeded that out a few years ago.
Yeah, because we used to. I remember.
We did used to do that, but I'm glad we've gotten rid of it.
Now we've got enough hate in our hearts to remember who hurt us the most.
And we have a league scoreboard that can help us decide who to attack first.
Yeah.
Spoilers, it's Derek.
It's always me.
It's usually Derek, yeah. Every time I'm trying to grab first blood, I'm going to swing at Derek if I can.
That's fair.
It's fair. There's always next season. Derek, it's because you came out on top so fast.
Yeah. And I'll stay up there.
Oh.
Fighting words.
So, I don't know. To me, it's about someone avoiding a decision or trying to pass their decision on to a quote-unquote randomness, trying to pass it off as chance. But we see that they did roll a die. It landed on somebody else, and they said, I don't like that outcome. I'm going to re-roll. And then took the result of the second roll. That's ridiculous. If you just want to swing at somebody, then just swing at somebody.
Yeah, it sounds kind of petty. Like, you didn't have the balls to hit me, so you tried to play off on fate, but fate didn't give you what you wanted, so you're like, let's try again. It seems kind of just like...
Yeah,
it's a
just
game,
cowardly.
bro. It's a game.
Have some chutzpah. Benjamin, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think we should talk about why we got rid of randomness in our own group, right? Like, make a real in-game decision about who you're going to attack and for what reasons. Are they playing the scariest commander? Or do they have the most life? Do they win more games than anyone else? And actually, force you to, think about the meta a little bit and own your decisions, like y'all said. So I do know that a lot of people, like I will often advise people who are torn about a decision to flip a coin, roll a die, whatever, because the way you feel about the result tells you what you really wanted, right?
Yeah.
So in this case, this person maybe wasn't sure who they wanted to attack, but the die roll told them, oh, well, actually, I guess I did want to attack them instead, and then did so. But I wouldn't have re-rolled it a second time. I would have said, you know what? I don't like that. I'm attacking you instead. instead of let me re-roll. Mm-hmm. And so I think that the re-roll and having them swing at mana curves and kill them is probably the part of that I don't like. I don't necessarily dislike, especially if you do it quickly. If you're rolling for every decision, that gets annoying real fast.
Oh, so
But in this one, if it's a game-winning, hey, I'm going to roll this just to see who dies first, but I'm planning to kill all of you. I don't have a problem with that necessarily if there's not a lot of meta considerations going on and you do it quickly. But I think the second roll is what kills it. Like, yeah, don't do that.
A coward dies multiple deaths.
Yep.
So I want to not disagree. I absolutely agree that you should make a decision and own it and, just take whatever happens. But there are so many people out there playing with strangers who don't want to, quote unquote, offend anyone, but they have to make a move in the game because that's how you play. So they'll do this thing where, it doesn't really matter who I attack at this point, or I'm attacking with impunity, I have Heroas and blockers won't mean anything for me, or I have a flyer and nobody else has a flyer, and all life being equal, it doesn't matter. And they want to create this guiltless attack of saying, I have to attack
don't blame
because
me, blame fate.
Yeah, exactly. They want to say, don't blame me. I don't want any personal grudges to come out of this attack, and they'll do the dice instead. How can they eliminate the dice, but still make it clear that this is just the game and that's how it's played? Because, I can already see the imaginary or real post on Reddit that says, a guy came after me, quote unquote, for no reason with his flying commander or whatever.
I'd probably...
Yeah,
go ahead.
Go ahead, Benjamin.
Oh, well, if it's strangers, I think I would say, hey, I'm coming after you this time, I'll go after them next time. If we're in the similar situation and I don't have a good reason, I promise I won't go after you next game first. But, if you have a good reason, just state it. I'm going after you because you have the most life, or I'm going after you first because I think that you're the one most likely to beat me. Derek's really good at this, actually. He's like, I'm going to attack Benjamin because I think he's the one who has the capacity to beat me.
Yeah.
Or you've done that before with Avacyn. You're like, I'm going to attack Ben because he's the one who's playing a lot of exile removal.
Yeah. Or sacrifice removal.
Or sacrifice removal. He's the one who's able to remove Avacyn. So, like, if you've got a reason, just say it. Like, I can't possibly be like, man, that wasn't fair. You didn't have a good reason, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't have a reason and it really is random, just say, hey, it's got to be somebody. I'm choosing you. I'm not targeting you for every attack ever. And if we play again, it won't be you next time. Use some politics there. But, game's got to end. I got to pick someone, so I'm choosing you this time.
I think you could just say, hey guys, do you guys want to play some Magic? I would like to win. And that be the end of it.
That's one way to do a Rule 0. Or Session 0.
That's a great way to do a Rule 0. Randy, what were you going to say a minute ago?
Man, if it didn't just leave my body like it was never there. I think it was something along the lines of just basically explain your reasoning of everyone's open, there is nothing personal, I'm just going to attack you because I don't know. And like kind of what Benjamin said, like you explain, I'm not going to do it every turn, but I have to hit someone, or even if the person is the only one open, it's like you're the only one open, sorry.
Yeah.
I need to get my trigger off so I can draw a card.
Yeah, I think that makes total sense. And just like, remember that Magic is a game that has to end. Moves have to be made in order for the game to end and for a winner to be declared. So don't take every single attack, or every single move aimed at you personally. It's just a game that you agreed to play by creating a deck and rolling up to the table. So anyway, thanks, Mana Curves. We're going to use your post in our episode. Awesome. Anything you guys wanted to add to this topic or any of the others?
Nope.
I think we covered it pretty well today.
This was a fun episode. Maybe we should do some others like it. But it was really fun having everybody bring something that you cared about. And all of these are fairly recent posts. I think one of them might have been 2 weeks ago. I think it was the Flawed Characters one is our oldest one that we got to. But guys, what we're saying is these social issues in our hobby, in our nerd culture, they're happening every day, and it's our goal at My Mythical Meta to shine some light on how you can address some of these social issues in order to maintain your friendships and relationships. That's what we hope you get out of this. If you want your question answered on My Mythical Meta, if you want to hear us four knuckleheads give advice about how you can maintain and bolster your relationships, you can send us emails directly to mymythicalmeta@eldoradogaming.com. You can become a patron and send us messages through the Discord server. Messages through Discord and comments on our YouTube, on our Spotify, those are always going to get first dibs. But if you have a specific question and you send it to us, you will get top priority. We will most certainly get to questions that are sent to us specifically. If you have it in your heart, make sure to leave us a 5-star review on whatever platform you are listening to our podcast with. Benjamin, give us some words of wisdom.
Okay, well, every single thing that we talked about today really boils down to communication with the people that you interact with. Trying to figure out, we all talked about what excites you in a homebrew, but ultimately, if you're making a homebrew for players, what matters is what excites those players. Go talk to them. Don't create your homebrew without knowing who's going to play in it, right? Communicate with the people that you intend to spend time with and figuring out what they want in that thing. That's the whole point of a Session 0. When it comes to making time for your group, figure out what everybody's level of commitment is. Be okay if maybe this group isn't going to work out because y'all have different commitment levels. Find a group that has the same commitment level as you and would be understanding when you can't make it or will be there when you all say you will. But talking about that ahead of time, again, in a Session 0. With the Flawed Characters, figure out what your group wants from their experience. Are they going to be okay with you role-playing a weakness, with you not being able to come through in the clutch because you have a fear of heights or whatever it is? How is your DM wanting a high-powered campaign, or are they going to use your weaknesses in the moment to create an interesting tension or story? But ultimately, again, that comes down to communication. And then again, the decision making, right? The fear of making someone feel targeted or people having a bad experience because they didn't let randomness ultimately comes down to making your intentions clear and cultivating a group where you let people make those decisions and don't punish them for it out of the game.
Yeah, don't hold grudges against somebody for making a game decision.
Yeah. Learn to communicate well, learn to be gracious, learn to be open about your expectations and be accommodating of other people, and you'll have a better gaming experience all around.
Beautiful. It's good to be back, guys. My house is still being worked on. I am so excited for when it finishes. I'm going to have an entire upstairs playroom, that's much bigger than the room I used to have.
All right, you're hosting the next game night.
Oh.
Maybe, man. It'd be great.
Oh, I thought the playroom was for Marin, like her playroom. You're moving your stuff in there?
I'm moving all my stuff in there.
She can have the old small one.
Well, no, that room is being turned into a bedroom.
Oh, she can still
Well, we're
play.
going to have like corners and some walls are going to be baby toys, but the central fixture will be the table and the board game shelf.
Awesome, exciting, can't wait.
Yeah, very excited. Okay, thank you guys for listening, and thank you for being my good friends, Derek, Randy, and Benjamin. Have a great night.
Bye.
Sayonara.
Wait, you guys are leaving?
This episode was sponsored by Eldorado Gaming. Use the promo code META for 10% off your order. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. This episode was edited by me, Travis Konishek, and our intro and outro music is by Tyler Heath of the Oh Hellos.